What's up, y'all? Picking up where I left off last time. Kind of just filled in all the gaps for the holes. Just quickly grinded some of them down. I'm not welding all the holes up, just in case I want to mount some stuff. I accidentally over welded some stuff, so by that I mean like welded a little bit too many holes. This bracket right here goes right here, bolts up right here, right here, and I welded it up like a monkey. So I gotta try to figure out how I'm gonna fix that. So it's just small stuff, but for the most part, core support is pretty much done. I'm gonna try to utilize these to mount wire through. I'm gonna try to run use much of the OEM stuff, at least the routing for the wire as much as possible. But also I'm gonna try to run a lot of wire. Try to tuck most of the wire that I can, because since the JZ is going in there, I'm not going to be using a lot of stuff. So by stuff I mean like the stock body harness has a MAF sensor and all this other junk, so I'm going to try to get rid of that. Well, at least tuck it down in this area. So and I undercoated the body, at least the wheel wells, so just gonna do as much as possible to get this ready. But that's the update for today, so catch you guys later. All right, homies, what's up, what's happening? Well, I'm gonna try to speak over this loud compressor, but the engine bay is pretty much ready for paint. I'm actually just setting up right now. I'm a little nervous. I never use a gun to the point where it's like I've used guns, but or paint guns I'm talking about, but on smaller pieces, never something this big. Finally the compressor turned off. But I'm gonna go with a surprise color. It's definitely not silver again, and I'm gonna see how it lays down. Hopefully I learned the gun a little bit and I learned how to mix up paint correctly. So pretty much last video you guys saw, that was pretty much filling in, welding and bondoing and all that. Now it's all perfect. So yeah, everything's perfect, and gonna start laying down some paint. I'm a bit anxious, so I might be repeating myself, but yeah, I'm gonna get ready to it. I'm gonna start mixing the paint up. I'd set you guys down, but I think it's more of a surprise that I just reveal the final product, only because I'm not perfect at painting, and I don't need the whole comment section roasting me about what I'm doing wrong. I'm the type of individual to learn. I'm the type of individual that I'll learn as I go, so that's kind of why I'm not going to show you guys that. But wish me luck, and I'll show you guys the final result. Peace. Alright, YouTube, what's happening? So we painted the engine bay, and I got some cool surprise. Painting some stuff right now to get it all set. So here's the motor. I just picked up this deep motor intake manifold. Beautiful. Got the whole box right here. But we also painted the car red engine bay. So paint came out really nice. You can see. So what we're doing is just the same thing as we did last time when I was building the car. Just painting small brackets, painted the brake lines chrome, you know, the whole gist. But I'm gonna be redoing my body harness, because I'm gonna tuck most of my stuff, like relays, whatever I can tuck and hide, I'm gonna do that. So for instance, this, I'd probably just, you know, put that right there. Just figure out places where I can store stuff, so it won't show too much in the bay, obviously because it's shaved. But certain stuff like this was ran for the 5M. So what I'll do is, because I do need some of these wires like these, I think like a few of these wires I need. So what I'll do is I'll open this harness, separate these and make it on its own portion, like strand I guess, and these other ones I'll just coil it and leave it here in this area and just call it like that. And then the ones I do need, I'll run it inside, just clean up the harness a lot more, and then figure out where I'm going to be hiding some of my stuff and deciding what stuff is going to be showing in the bay. But this is the list of everything I need. So all that, I'll pause the picture, pause the video, and so you guys can look at all that. But it's quite a bit of stuff. But for the most part, I'm just going through stuff, painting it, taking my time. Definitely selling this exhaust manifold because I get a turbo manifold. So just small stuff. I gotta order that harness stuff, so I won't probably pull up. I probably won't show any more further progress, only because until I get that, then I can show you guys progress. But as of right now, like, I can't really do much just because it's kind of like rent check. So we're at a standstill. The most I was able to afford is buying the paint and this. So yeah, so I'll be waiting on that. It's just mostly putting stuff back on, and yeah, so I took all that off. I'm gonna be selling that and then selling the exhaust manifold. But either way, this is what's going on. So I'll probably cut back to when there's more progress. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Just giving you guys an update, since you know, all this stuff is just stuff that I have to redo. But anyways, got the harness re-taped to make it look nicer, zip tied up. Some of the relays I'm hiding right here, so this one right there. Some of the wires I don't need, I'm going to be tucking away, just like what I did right here. Put in this other relay right here in the side area. Got these cool little clips to kind of clip it in place. Some of the wires, headlight wire, you know, stuff like that. Trying to keep as much stuff outside of the bay, on the exterior of the engine bay, and tucked. Some of the stuff I'm running inside just because, you know, I figured I wouldn't go for too much of a wire tuck, only because it's just my opinion. I don't know where I'd hide most of these stuff anyway, so try to keep what I could inside like this. Gonna be wiring, putting it right there, just pretty much hiding some stuff. Also got an update for you guys. I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the last video, but I picked up a front facing manifold. So gonna be going coil on plug, whole standalone harness and all that stuff. Also got a CX Racing exhaust manifold, so gonna go crazy with this build. What's next pretty much is to take the fuel lines out, run that inside the car, and then after that raise the actual frame of the car. I'm not sure if I explained that to you guys, but gonna be raising the frames up an inch, so I'll sit the frame will sit higher, so it's not beating too much on the frame. But other than that, yeah, just got most of the brake line stuff back in, and the wire just tucked. I feel like I'm gonna drop the motor sometime soon inside the car, just to figure out odds and evens and see how am I gonna run this, if this is gonna interrupt with the fuse box. I hope it doesn't. If it does, I'm gonna have to figure out what I'm gonna do with that. I don't know what I'm gonna do with that, to be honest. I don't know if I can fit in here. I don't know. So I'm hoping my worst nightmare isn't gonna be this. So, but other than that, guys, I'm gonna let you guys go. Small progress here and there. Just been working a lot. So, but getting the wire harness in there is a great step forward. Next up is going to be ordering fuel lines and running my fuel lines inside the car. So yeah, thank you for watching. All right, YouTube, so got the motor in, just test fitted it for right now. It may or may not come out again, I don't know, just depends on the work that needs to be done. I do have to, the radiator is only in there for mock-up because I wanted to see the issue with this. I'm not too sure what I'm gonna do for this, because I honestly just don't want to mount a straight hose to it. I want to see if I can possibly chop this off, weld it here, and run a pipe coming out like that and into here. But for the most part, I know it's kind of freaking close. And the mounts are adjustable, and it sits perfect inside the engine bay, at least the shifter position. So worst comes to worst, I'll just change out the studs on the water pump and go from there. So it's just a small inconvenience, but it's okay. For the most part, the motor is in. So one thing I did have to do is I ran into an issue with the front facing manifold. It was too close to that, is actually hitting on it, so I just drilled a hole about an inch and a half at the bottom center of the fuse box, and then just fished all my wires up. So, and then use the factory mounting point right there. I do have to make another bracket, so I'll probably drill a hole, bend some flat stock just to add that extra support. Maybe chop this off to make it look cleaner. I'm gonna try to utilize this bracket somehow, because I do have to use a power distribution block somewhere right here, or a battery post, to try to get this engine to work, because I want to run it like a BMW. If you guys have ever worked on a BMW or owned a BMW, the battery post is right up there, and then the battery's in the back. So I want to try to implement that in this situation, but it's still kind of in the works, so I don't know yet. But for the most part, I gotta do that. I gotta swap the oil pan, or not the oil pan, the oil pump to a GTE pump. So, because it has a crank sensor on the GTE oil pumps, and obviously since I'm gonna go standalone, I want to utilize that. So I'm still doing a little bit research here and there, and I know I gotta do a cam sensor in the back or on the side. I'm not sure. I have to look into that, but that is the plan. Let's see. I am gonna run 3-inch intercooler piping. I think the inlet on that is 3 1/4 or 3/4. I'm not sure, but either way, a little reducer, and then just pipe cuts to get into that area, and then kind of get it out of there. So I'll probably send this to someone so they can fab up all the work, because that's too many pipe cuts and too many welding for aluminum. I don't have an aluminum welder, so I can't do that. Other than that, turbo sits in perfect. Manifold, I can imagine a turbo pipe going down there, so I'll just have to figure that out. Worst comes to worst, I'll just get a T4 to a V-band adapter, and hopefully I can swivel the motor, or swivel the turbo, so it can shoot right. But I still have to figure out my turbo. I am gonna try to run a different radiator, with the idea that I explained. May or may not work, or I can just downsize to a single core radiator from a 240 and make that work. But then my mounting points will be different, and I kind of welded up all the holes, and I don't want to drill a hole and leave this hole unused. I could make a bracket for that, but I'm gonna weigh my options. I don't know if cutting that and welding that over here will mess up the flow of the radiator. I don't know yet, so I'll just have to figure that out. But besides that, with the subframe lift that I did, the motor sits at the same height, lower than from the floor up. Sits about probably 2 1/4 inches. Before it was 3 1/4 inches. I lost an inch, but it's whatever. I'll just have to make a skid plate of some sort to make it work. And then let's see, I put the motor in by myself and kind of gave it a battle scar right there, and I had tape covered it, but didn't help. But regardless, show you guys this real quick. if you guys can see, it sits in there perfect. So I'll just figure out what to go on from here. I could push the motor back a little bit more and deal with my situation on the shifter. I can cut my shifter and pivot it the other way, if that makes any sense. I'm just speaking hypotheticals, maybe you guys understand. But so pretty much the shifter would sit out like that. If it was in the trans, it would sit out and it kind of give it like a little kick to it. I'll just reverse the kick, I don't know, and cut the trans tunnel maybe. I don't know, I gotta figure that out. But for the most part, gotta get injectors, still gotta get a wastegate, still gotta drill my holes for my piping, and I have to cut the hood a little bit. The freaking bracing on the hood kind of hits the engine a little bit, so I'll just notch it and see how that works. But that stuff, that's like for finalized once the motor and all that stuff is done. So but for right now, this is a good step in the right direction. I still have to drill my tap and drill my return line, and I think this little area right here is for where people drill their oil drain. So I'll have to figure that out. Just a bunch of research I have to do. But yeah, that's for the most part. Engine is in the car, so it's a big plus. Move in the right direction. But I'll keep updating you guys as I go. I don't think that I can do anything else till I get more fetty. I gotta get more bread so I can keep coming up with ideas and turbo decisions. So I'll probably keep you guys, well, I'll keep you guys updated, but probably I gotta figure out some more stuff. Another issue I gotta deal with is obviously a custom throttle cable, oh damn, and dipstick. I don't know if people use the stock dipstick or what, but this does not look like it fits. Maybe I can bend it a little bit, but still it's gonna look weird sitting out like that. So I'll have to figure it out and then go from there. But sounds good. I'm gonna let you guys go. What's up, YouTube? We're under the car again with the Supra, and we're doing something new. So I got all the fuel lines because I gotta run them inside the car, because with how much I raised the motor, you can actually see there's pretty much no clearance back there. There's only clearance for one brake line, and even then it's touching the trans. So you know, you can see with me moving it out the way, those lines weren't going to fit, especially when it jumps over to the other side. So I gotta also make a new trans mount, because as you can see, no matter how I flip this or the trans mount, it won't line up, and it sits that far up. Then coming back over here, as far as how I'm gonna run for the fuel lines, obviously it's gonna be ran in the car. I'm gonna try to drill a hole and put a rubber grommet right here up in this area, because this is where the back seat is. So I pipe bend at work, so I'll just go ahead and make it come out on this side. Pipe bend here, then in here, 90 with a kick into the stock location. So that's the plan. I'm gonna have to do it at sections, because all these lines were pretty bent and people just mocked them in here. So obviously, since this is custom, I'm gonna have to do it piece by piece. I'm gonna try to do what I can in a whole piece without having to cut it and flare it and tighten it. So I'm gonna try and not do that, but we'll see how that comes out. As far as that, yeah. So when I was talking about modding my frame rails, plan on chopping this about like an inch. I'm overestimating, I don't know how far an inch is, but chop an inch off and then flat stock and weld it. some reinforce these because these are, as you can see, it's starting to peel off. They're starting to separate and rust. So, and I need to fix this little whole mess right here. So, yeah, so that's the plan. I just finished up for today. I can't really do anything else. I just put all the transmission bolts all on top, none on the bottom. I spent like 36 bucks at Ace Hardware getting bolts, so that was pretty nice. So I marked out pretty much, jumping over to the trans, I marked out where I needed to cut because I'm gonna try and use this mount and see how we're gonna run that, but we'll see. I don't know yet. But as far as that, moving back over here, I still gotta bolt the motor into the car. As you can see, it's not bolted up, it's just there's a bolt in its place. So yeah, gotta do that. And later in the future, I'll have to make a skid plate, even though the motor sits pretty high up because of the whole subframe modification. It's still low. It's still low to the car. I mean, low to the floor. So heavy motor. Shout out to the heavy motor. But yeah. So I'm gonna be raising the diff, raising the control arm, not the control arm, the trans mount, raising the subframe, and putting the fuel lines inside the car. So I'll be tearing up the car, and then I guess the main thing right now is just doing all the taking apart of stuff, and then I can save up some bread in the meantime and start buying the stuff I need. Hopefully trying to get a credit card and put that stuff on a credit card, at least the main stuff like the ECU and harness. Other than that, stuff like that's what's gonna have to be on a credit card because that stuff is expensive as heck. So anyways, besides all that, this is the update. Got nothing else for you guys, so I'll keep you guys updated as far as when I start doing more stuff. The main thing today was just trying to situate the trans mount. If that wasn't gonna work, then I was gonna have to make my own, so I marked it, and the fuel lines had to come out. So that's a big plus. Now I can start tearing apart and tearing apart my interior to start figuring out how I'm gonna route these fuel lines. Other than that, I'll catch you guys later.